Welcome back, friend. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Before we begin, just know my goal is simple: to help you unwind, to let the noise fade, and to carry you gently through a story that's half history, half dream. Tonight, we'll drift back through centuries of intrigue, danger, and wonder to a city that shaped the world, and yet might eat you alive if you stayed too long. If that sounds like your kind of bedtime story, make sure you're comfortable. And hey, if you enjoy what I do here, you can subscribe. Only if it truly makes you smile. Now, imagine this. You open your eyes and the air is thick with heat and dust. They're shouting somewhere nearby, men arguing, horses snorting, the clang of metal echoing from a distance. You're lying on a slab of stone, sunlight slicing through a narrow window. The smell of olive oil and smoke fills your nose. You're in ancient Rome, the beating, sweating, glorious mess of civilization itself. Congratulations, you've travelled back in time. And honestly, you probably wouldn't survive a day here. So, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now tell me, where are you listening from tonight? What time is it where you are? Maybe it's late, maybe you're already half asleep. That's good. Keep that feeling close. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The city hums like a living creature. Rome never sleeps. It just changes rhythm. Morning sunlight spills over marble statues and terracotta rooftops, and the streets begin to fill. Sandaled feet slap against the cobblestones. A bread seller yells in Latin, something about fresh loaves for a denarius. You're still trying to figure out what that means when someone shoves past you, muttering. Their tunic smells like sweat, garlic, and ambition. Everyone's in a hurry. Not because they're late for work, but because in Rome, standing still is a good way to get robbed, or worse. You wander through a narrow alley. The walls are close, painted with fading graffiti, some political slogans, some, let's say, artistic anatomy studies. Turns out ancient Romans invented bathroom humour long before we did. Somewhere above, a bucket of water, or maybe not just water, is dumped from a window. It splashes near your feet and you realise Rome smells alive, like wet clay, smoke, wine, and people who have too much to do and too little time to bathe. A stray dog trots by with something suspiciously like a human bone. You pretend not to notice. You turn a corner and suddenly, the street opens wide. There it is, the Forum. Columns gleam in the morning sun, carved gods gaze down with blank marble eyes, and voices fill the air. Merchants, lawyers, priests, beggars, soldiers, all colliding in one glorious chaos. The world here runs on favours, reputation and gossip. Everyone's watching everyone. Even statues, it seems, are eavesdropping. A man in a red-bordered toga bumps into you. His rings jingle as he gestures wildly, ranting about senatorial decrees and public funds. You nod like you understand. He mistakes your confusion for agreement and pats your shoulder, grinning. Congratulations. You've just been recruited into Roman politics. That's one way to die early. Historians still argue about what it really felt like to walk through the Forum. Whether it was awe-inspiring or just overwhelming. The truth is probably both. And as you stand there, half lost, half amazed, something changes. You hear a trumpet in the distance. A procession is coming. Soldiers in gleaming armour, shields catching the sunlight, their steps echoing like thunder on stone. The crowd parts. You can smell the iron and leather as they pass. Rome's heartbeat right there in front of you. One soldier glances your way. His gaze lingers just a little too long, as if he knows you don't belong. Then he looks away. Maybe it's the heat, maybe it's the noise, but your vision wavers. The edges of the world seem to shimmer. A street performer nearby juggles flaming torches, shouting, "Fortune favours the bold!" You manage a tired laugh. You're bold, sure, but fortune, you're still waiting for that part. As the sun climbs higher, the city blurs into a golden haze. You're exhausted already, and it's barely morning. Welcome to Rome, where even standing still feels like surviving a battle. Tomorrow, if you make it that far, we'll see how a Roman starts the day, and why the bathhouse isn't just for bathing. But for now, close your eyes, breathe out slowly, and let the hum of the city fade into the dark behind your eyelids. Because you've got a long day ahead, and ancient Rome doesn't forgive slow learners. The air's thick with steam and murmurs. You blink, half awake, half dreaming, and realise you're standing at the entrance to a Roman thermae, one of the great public bathhouses. Sunlight spills through arched windows, glinting on marble floors slick with condensation. The sound of splashing, laughter and quiet scheming echoes around you. And the first thing you notice, nobody here is wearing much. Welcome to the balcony, my friend. The only place in ancient Rome where senators, slaves, philosophers and soldiers all share the same puddle. The bathhouse is the heart of Roman life. It's not just about cleaning the body. It's about cleansing gossip, politics and pride. Everyone comes here, every day, to wash off the dust of the empire, and maybe stab each other in the back, metaphorically. You hesitate at the doorway. The attendant, a wiry man with a beard that looks older than the Republic, waves you in. He mumbles something about a small fee. 1 quadrans, a copper coin. You have no money, of course. You smile awkwardly. He shrugs, mutters something that probably means tourist, and lets you through. The moment you step inside, the warmth wraps around you. It's like being hugged by a giant loaf of bread, moist, comforting, slightly too intimate. Men lounge on benches, oiling each other's backs, chatting about politics and gladiator results. Someone nearby is passionately debating whether garlic improves the digestion. You pass a man covered in sand, another having his armpit scraped with a strigil. A curved bronze blade used to clean off sweat and dirt, that's right. Romans didn't use soap. They rubbed oil on their skin, then scraped it off with a knife. Imagine explaining that to your dermatologist. You watch as the strigil collects a grimy mixture of oil, dust and regret. The attendant dumps it in a bucket. You're pretty sure that bucket gets reused. You move toward the tepidarium, the warm room. It's misty and dim, with soft light from oil lamps flickering on marble statues. You can hear faint laughter echoing from the caldarium, the hot bath beyond. Someone offers you a small flask of olive oil. For the skin, they say. You thank them and realise it smells faintly of rosemary and possibly goat. A man beside you leans over conspiratorially. They say Emperor Hadrian's been seen bathing here again, he whispers, disguised, watching, listening. You laugh, thinking he's joking. But the man doesn't laugh back. Historians still debate whether Roman emperors really mingled among commoners in bathhouses. Some say it was a show of humility, others a way to spy. Either way, it's the kind of rumour that makes people glance nervously over their shoulders, even in the steam. As you move deeper, the air grows hotter. Your skin slicks with sweat, your lungs taste of mineral water. The sound of splashing turns to a roar, and you find yourself at the heart of the caldarium. The ceiling drips with condensation. The pool glows orange from the furnace beneath. Men recline against the walls, their faces flushed. One shouts a greeting to another across the water, sloshing half the pool in the process. You dip a toe in. Instant regret. It's boiling. Literally. But before you can back away, someone behind you chuckles. First time, you turn. It's a heavy-set man with kind eyes and too many gold rings. He gestures for you to enter. Go on. The heat cleanses the soul. You consider telling him your soul's doing fine at room temperature, but instead you nod and step in. The water wraps around you like molten honey. Your pulse slows, your breath deepens. For a moment you forget where, and when, you are. The man leans closer. "You're not from here, are you?" You freeze. "Why do you ask?" He smiles. You're looking at everything like it's alive. You glance around, marble statues, swirling steam, the flicker of torchlight, and realise it is alive. The bathhouse breathes, it sighs, it hums with centuries of stories. He winks. "Don't worry, Rome changes everyone." Then he closes his eyes, sinks beneath the water, and doesn't come back up for several seconds. When he does, he's grinning. "See? Reborn." You're about to answer when an attendant calls out, announcing the opening of the frigidarium, the cold plunge. The crowd stirs. People rise, dripping, shuffling toward the next chamber. You follow. The moment you step into the cold pool, your body screams. Every nerve lights up. You gasp so loudly that a nearby man bursts out laughing. "Ah!" Another barbarian meets Roman discipline. Your teeth chatter, but you manage to grin. "Feels great," you lie. By the time you climb out, your skin is goose-fleshed and glowing. You lie back on a marble bench, staring up at the domed ceiling, where thin beams of sunlight cut through the mist like golden knives. Somewhere nearby, someone is singing softly, an old Roman tune, low and slow. You can almost drift asleep right here. And for a moment, you understand why they built these places. Not just to wash, but to forget. Because under the hot breath of the Empire, everyone needs a place to pretend they're clean. Tomorrow, though, you'll have to face the real challenge: breakfast. And trust me, it's not as glamorous as history makes it sound. So for now, let the steam fade. Let your breathing slow. The water drips softly. The marble hums with warmth, and your thoughts begin to drift. Rome is still outside, waiting, but you're floating. Morning creeps softly across the tiled floor, spilling through the archway of the therme you just escaped. Your hair is damp, your skin smells faintly of olive oil and smoke, and your stomach, well, it's decided to start making gladiator noises. Rome may have conquered the world, but breakfast? That's one battle they never quite won. You step back onto the street, greeted by a wall of heat, shouts, and the faint aroma of something burning. Probably bread, or a shop. It's always hard to tell. A vendor waves at you from a stall nearby. "Pulse! Pulse Collidus!" he yells. You don't speak Latin, but his tone makes it sound like a special offer. You wander closer. He's selling small bowls of beige mush that look like oatmeal but smell like sorrow. This is pulse, Rome's favourite breakfast. A watery porridge made of barley, sometimes wheat, occasionally flavoured with whatever you can afford, which, in your case, is nothing. You take a bite. It tastes like the ghost of something that once dreamed of being food. You nod politely to the vendor, who beams. Good, eh? You mumble something that sounds like agreement but might actually be a prayer for rescue. A group of labourers beside you gulp their poles down quickly, laughing, trading insults, and heading off toward the forum. They've got a long day ahead, laying bricks, hauling marble, maybe helping build a temple they'll never be allowed to enter. You, on the other hand, are trying to remember what coffee felt like. Romans didn't have coffee, or tea, or sugar. They did, however, have garum, a fermented fish sauce they poured on everything, even dessert. You spot a jar of it on the vendor's cart. The smell hits you like divine punishment. "Want some?" he offers, cheerful. You shake your head so fast your neck pops. Historians still argue about how garum was actually made. Some say it was fish guts left to rot in the sun. Others claim there were more refined versions. Either way, the only thing everyone agrees on, you could smell a garum factory from 3 streets away. The vendor shrugs and moves on to his next customer, sprinkling the brown liquid onto their breakfast like it's holy water. You wander away, still chewing the same mouthful of pearls, somehow both soggy and dry. Rome's streets are coming alive now. Children run barefoot through puddles, women haggle over fruit, a man in a toga shouts about tax reforms that nobody seems to care about. The city smells like bread, manure and ambition. You pause near a fountain trying to rinse your mouth discreetly. A woman nearby gives you a judgmental look. Clearly you're doing it wrong. She balances a jug on her head effortlessly, then mutters something about barbarians. You're starting to suspect everyone in Rome assumes you're a barbarian, which honestly is fair. A group of soldiers marches by, bronze armour glinting in the light. They look terrifying and hungry, a bad combination. One of them tosses you a chunk of coarse bread, hard enough to chip a tooth. You catch it anyway, grateful. He grins. "For courage," he says before marching off. You bite into it. It's tough, chewy, and probably older than the Republic. Still, it's better than the porridge. Barely. A skinny boy runs past, shouting, "Fresh figs! Straight from the countryside!" You buy one with the coin you somehow still have, a soft, sun-warmed fig that bursts with sweetness the moment you bite it. For the first time today, you taste something that feels alive, and that's the secret of Rome. Tiny pleasures hidden inside endless discomfort. Nearby, a man is arguing with his wife about whether Jupiter controls the weather. Another is selling small clay amulets, guaranteed to protect against bad luck. You almost consider buying one. Rome feels like a place where luck is rationed. A musician strums a lyre, singing a song about love and taxes, the two great constants of civilization. His voice echoes off the stone walls, warm and strangely soothing. For a few moments, the noise of the city blends into a rhythm. Sandals on cobblestones, laughter, shouts, the distant ring of a blacksmith's hammer. Rome hums like a living orchestra, chaotic, off-key, but mesmerising. You find yourself smiling. Maybe you could get used to this. Then someone dumps a bucket of wastewater, hopefully water, from an upper window and it splashes right next to your sandals. Welcome back to reality. A passing woman laughs. "First day in Rome?" You sigh. "Is it that obvious?" She nods. You're still standing in the street. You step aside just in time to avoid a horse cart. Lesson learned. As the morning grows hotter, you start to notice the city vibrating with energy. People move fast, talk faster, live like every moment might be their last. Because for many of them, it could be. You lean against a column, licking fig juice from your fingers and think, if this is just breakfast, what does lunchtime look like? You'll find out soon enough. But before that, you'll have to brave the market. A jungle of smells, scams, and chaos that would make even a modern subway station look peaceful. For now, take a breath. Feel the sun warming your skin. The hum of the city is your heartbeat now. Close your eyes for a moment and let the noise fade into a soft, distant blur. Rome's day has only begun, and so has yours. The sun is climbing higher now, spilling down the tall facades of Rome's insula, the apartment blocks that lean like tired giants over narrow streets. Laundry flutters above your head. Somewhere someone's arguing about a chicken. The city has officially woken up, and you, brave traveller, are about to enter its beating heart. The markets. The Trajan market, to be exact. A place so big, so loud and so chaotic that even modern stock exchanges would blush. Think of it as a mix between a shopping mall, a news network and a mild riot. You follow the smell first. Roasted nuts, fresh bread and fish. Definitely fish. The Romans were obsessed with fish. The fresher, the better. Which is ironic, considering some of these stalls are miles from the sea. You turn a corner and nearly collide with a cart stacked high with amphora, tall clay jars filled with olive oil. The driver curses in Latin. You don't know the words, but you recognise the tone. "Sorry," you mumble, stepping aside. He waves his fist. "Stultus barbarus!" Another day, another insult. You're practically a local now. The noise here is constant. Merchants shouting, buyers haggling, coins clinking. The rhythm of commerce hasn't changed in 2,000 years, just the currency. A woman selling fabric calls out to you. "Egyptian linen, soft as Venus's kiss." You touch it, rough as sandpaper. You smile politely and move on. Further down, a butcher lifts a pig's head by the ear, calling, "Half price," as if that makes it better. A potter nearby slams his wares on the counter, shouting that his cups can survive anything. A moment later, one shatters. You both pretend not to notice. Historians still debate how clean these markets actually were. Some describe them as organised marvels of trade. Others call them the olfactory apocalypse. Judging by the mix of sweat, fish, wine, and humanity around you, you're leaning toward apocalypse. You stop at a spice stall, little clay jars filled with treasures from across the empire. Cinnamon from India, pepper from Arabia, saffron worth more than gold. The merchant, an old man with one cloudy eye, leans in and whispers, "Smell this." He opens a small jar. A cloud of scent hits you, sweet, sharp, dizzying. You cough, eyes watering. He chuckles. "Power," he says. "That's what Rome smells like." A young pickpocket bumps into you. You catch his wrist. He freezes, wide-eyed. Then you realise he's just a kid, maybe 12. He jerks away and vanishes into the crowd like smoke. Rome's streets belong to everyone, and to no one. You wander on, brushing past traders from Africa, Greece, Gaul, accents mixing like spices in the air. Rome isn't just a city. It's a world condensed into marble and noise. Somewhere nearby, a man is preaching. His voice rises above the chaos. "The gods demand purity. The empire demands obedience." The crowd half listens, half ignores. A woman selling olives rolls her eyes. Another prophet, they're everywhere this week. You buy a handful of the olives anyway. Bitter, salty, delicious. The vendor grins. "For good luck," she says. You're not sure if she means it or just wants you gone. Two men start fighting over a basket of figs. The brawl spills into the street. People cheer. Someone takes bets. You edge away slowly. This isn't your fight, though part of you's tempted to wager a coin on the shorter guy. A stray dog darts between legs, snatching a chunk of meat from a stall. The butcher roars and gives chase. The dog wins, of course. Rome's true survivor. You duck into a shaded corridor, catching your breath. Above you, mosaics gleam, tiny tiles forming patterns of dolphins and vines. Cool air drifts from the stone. You realise this part of the market was once part of Emperor Trajan's grand complex. A monument to trade, architecture, and ego. You sit on a low step, chewing the last of your olives. Around you the hum continues, constant, alive, ancient. This, you think, is what history never shows, the noise, the smell, the pulse of daily life. You glance down the crowded aisles, rows of people each with a story, a struggle, a secret, and you realise something strange. You're starting to feel at home in the chaos. Maybe that's what Rome does. It doesn't wait for you to adapt. It absorbs you. A shout breaks your thought. A man in fine robes rushes past, his scrolls scattering. You catch one before it hits the ground. A wax tablet inscribed with something official-looking. He snatches it back, muttering thanks, and disappears toward the Senate building. Politics, it seems, is calling. And as you watch him vanish into the crowd, a curious spark stirs in your chest. Maybe it's time to see what really keeps Rome turning, the whispers, the schemes, the hidden power behind all this noise. You brush the dust from your tunic, take one last breath of the market's dizzy perfume, and step toward the marble steps that lead to the Forum once again. Because beneath the chaos of Rome lies its true heartbeat, and it doesn't beat freely. Tomorrow you'll follow it into the shadows, but for now, breathe. Let the clamour soften, let the scent of spices linger. The day hums, the air shimmers, and your thoughts drift like smoke. Rome is alive, and you're part of it now. The market fades behind you, but the echoes follow. The laughter, the haggling, the clatter of amphorae. Rome hums no matter where you go, even here, where the air is thick with marble and ambition. You're standing at the foot of the Forum once again, staring up at the steps of the Curia, the Senate House. White columns gleam in the sun. The smell of incense drifts faintly from a nearby altar. This is where the Empire breathes and occasionally holds its breath. 2 guards stand at the entrance, spears in hand, looking bored but alert. You drift closer, pretending to be fascinated by a nearby statue of Jupiter, as if admiring the craftsmanship will disguise your curiosity. Inside, the air hums differently. Lower, heavier. The laughter of the market is gone. What replaces it is a steady murmur of voices, layered with tension. You peek around the door. Men in togas gather in clusters, whispering furiously. Their gestures are sharp, their faces glistening with sweat. The Senate is in session, and you, somehow, have front-row seats to the world's oldest argument. You slip into the shadows near a column unnoticed. A senator with a voice like gravel slams his fist on a bench. Taxes must be raised. The legions are starving. Another snaps back. Then let the emperor feed them with his pride. A third adds, you'd prefer the barbarians feed you, perhaps? The room ripples with laughter, sharp, dangerous laughter. Politics, you realise, hasn't changed in 2,000 years. It's still a blend of theatre, pride, and subtle threats wrapped in polite Latin. Somewhere in the back, a scribe scratches notes onto a wax tablet, his stylus moving quickly, recording every insult for posterity, or blackmail. Hard to tell which. The man beside him leans in to whisper, "They say the emperor's listening." Here? No. Everywhere. You shift your weight quietly. The stone floor is cold beneath your sandals. Every echo sounds too loud. It's strange. The Senate feels grand, but also fragile. These men rule the known world, yet half of them are terrified of the other half. One senator stands, his toga draped just so, his voice calm and clear. Rome does not need more soldiers. Rome needs faith. The room stills. Yeah, that's not politics, that's philosophy. And in Rome, philosophy can be treason. He continues, unafraid. If we build temples instead of wars, we will be conquered by prayers, someone interrupts. Laughter erupts again. You can't help but smile, though quietly. It's the kind of dry wit that would kill on modern social media. But as you watch, something shifts. 2 men in the corner exchange a look. One nods subtly. A servant moves closer to the outspoken senator's bench. You sense danger before he does. The senator's words falter mid-sentence. He clutches his throat, eyes wide. The murmurs die instantly. Someone shouts for help, but the reaction is slow, too slow. Within seconds he collapses, toga spilling over the marble floor like a broken wave. The chamber freezes. You can hear your own heartbeat. Poison, maybe, or politics. In Rome, they're the same thing. Historians still debate how common poisonings really were in the Senate, whether it was daily paranoia or genuine threat. But you've just seen enough to know, suspicion here isn't superstition, it's survival. Guards rush in, dragging the body away. The other senators act unfazed. One coughs, another adjusts his toga. A few quietly exchange bets. You step back into the corridor, your stomach tight. The city outside seems brighter now, louder, almost mocking. On the marble wall beside you, a bit of graffiti catches your eye, scratched in small, hasty letters. Senatus Populusque Romanus, the Senate and people of Rome. Someone has added beneath it, and the shadows that own them. You trace the letters with your finger. For the first time, the empire feels less like marble and more like smoke. You hear a voice behind you, soft, deliberate. Curious place for a wanderer, it says. You turn. It's a woman, cloaked, eyes sharp as glass. Not a senator's wife, but someone who knows things. She studies you for a moment, then smiles faintly. If you value your life, you didn't see what just happened. You nod slowly. Good, she says, because those who see too much in Rome rarely see tomorrow. She disappears into the corridor before you can reply, her footsteps silent. You stand there for a while, feeling the echo of her words. The market, the laughter, the sunshine, they're still out there. But here, in the marble lungs of the empire, you've tasted the air of power. It's intoxicating, but it burns on the way down. You step back outside. The light blinds you for a moment. People are still shouting, trading, living. Rome moves on. It always does. But you can't shake the image of the senator's eyes, wide and still. Maybe it's time to walk, to breathe again, to leave the whispers behind. Tomorrow perhaps you'll find a safer path, out along the great roads that lead beyond the city. For now, take one last look at the Forum. Let the sun wash the marble gold. Let the sound of footsteps fade into the distance. Rome's shadows will wait for you. They always do. The road begins where the city ends. Beyond the last arch of Rome's walls, the Via Appia stretches into the horizon. Smooth, grey stones laid by hands that have long turned to dust. You feel the warmth of the sun rise through your sandals, and the faint hum of cartwheels rolls like a heartbeat beneath the air. You're leaving the chaos behind. The shouting merchants, the smell of wine and sweat, the whispers of the Senate. Out here, Rome feels different. It breathes slower. It listens. Birdsong flutters above the fields. Olive trees twist in slow ancient poses, their branches silver green under the heat. Somewhere, a shepherd whistles and a dog barks back. For the first time in days, you think, maybe this is peace. Then you remember this is Rome. Peace never travels alone. A caravan creaks past, laden with amphorae of oil and grain. The driver squints at you. Careful traveller, he says, voice hoarse from dust. Bandits like pilgrims. You laugh lightly, thinking he's joking. He doesn't laugh back. The Via Appia was Rome's pride. Its arteries of empire, paved so that legions could march without delay, from Britannia's rain to Egypt's burning sand. But roads carry more than armies. They carry rumour, disease, ambition, and ghosts. Your feet tap against stone carved 20 centuries ago. The sound echoes between tall tombs that line the roadside, massive, ornate, and unsettlingly lifelike. Faces carved in marble watch you pass. Some smile faintly, others frown, as if judging your posture. Each belongs to someone who once believed they'd be remembered forever. A crow lands on one of the statues. Its cry splits the stillness. You jump, just a little, then chuckle. Right, you whisper, definitely not haunted. But then you notice it. One of the tomb doors is slightly ajar. Curiosity is a powerful thing, and in Rome a dangerous one. You step closer. The air inside is cooler, damp. You smell earth and age. Inside the walls are painted. Scenes of banquets, gods, family, people feasting under the gaze of eternity. Their eyes, still bright after all these years, follow you as you step deeper. In one corner a mosaic catches the light. A small inscription runs beneath it. Life is short, so drink faster. You grin. So that's where modern wisdom started. But the grin fades when you see what's beside it. A small clay lamp recently burned. The soot is fresh. Someone's been here. You freeze. Then, faintly, a footstep. Behind you. You turn quickly, heart racing. The doorway frames a silhouette. Broad shoulders, a hooded cloak. Peace, the stranger says softly, hands raised. His voice is calm, musical even. Didn't mean to frighten you. He steps into the dim light. A traveller like you, dust on his boots, a satchel across his chest. Name's Lucius, he offers. You looked lost. You relax just a little. Just curious, you reply. Didn't expect company. He nods toward the tombs. No one ever does. But these roads, they remember every traveller, even the ones who don't make it to the end. You raise a brow. Comforting. He laughs, and it's the first sound that feels human again. Come, he says. The sun will fall soon. The road isn't kind after dark. So you walk together. Two strangers tracing the spine of empire. As the day softens, the road turns to gold. Lucius tells stories of places beyond Rome, of Pompeii's ash, of Gaul's forests, of the strange mist beyond the channel where men paint themselves blue. You listen, half dreaming. Then his tone changes. You ever wonder, he says, what it costs to build a world like this? You glance at him. Taxes? He smiles faintly. No, souls. You walk in silence. The wind shifts, carrying the scent of distant fires. Or maybe cooking bread. It's hard to tell in Rome, where beauty and ruin share the same horizon. Historians still debate how these roads were built, whether slaves laid every stone, or skilled engineers guided them with geometry and faith. But when you press your hand to the pavement, you feel both, order and suffering bound together in perfect symmetry. As dusk settles, Lucius stops beside a small milestone, worn smooth by time. He kneels, brushing away dust. Every mile, he says quietly. Someone paid for it, sometimes with coin, sometimes with blood. Then he stands, adjusting his cloak. You should rest soon. There's an inn by the next bend. You thank him, but before you can ask more, he's already walking away, a dark shape against the fading light. You call out, but the wind swallows your words. By the time you reach the bend, he's gone. Only footprints remain, and even they fade quickly. You finally find the inn, a low stone building with smoke curling from its roof. Warm light flickers through the doorway. Inside, the air smells of stew and old wood. You sink onto a bench. The innkeeper eyes you, then nods. Traveller, eh? Roads can be cruel. Drink? You smile wearily. Something mild. He pours. You raise the cup. The liquid amber. The taste sharp. Earthy. Outside, the wind sighs across the stones. You glance toward the road again, just in time to see a shadow move. Briefly, like a figure walking under the moonlight. Maybe Lucius found another traveller to guide. Or maybe, like the roads, he never really left. The night deepens. The fire crackles. You let the warmth pull at your eyelids. Tomorrow you'll continue south, toward Pompeii, toward history's next breath. But for now, let the stones of the Via Appia hum softly beneath your dreams. They've carried many before you, and they'll carry you too. Morning arrives as a whisper, a soft tremor of light sliding over the fields, the scent of dew clinging to the olive leaves. You wake to the muted chatter of the inn, the clinking of cups, the familiar rhythm of travellers preparing to vanish down different roads. Your head feels heavy, though the dreams were soft, fragments of footsteps, the sound of Lucius's voice fading into the wind. You're not sure if he was real, or just the road playing tricks again. No matter. The journey south calls, to the sea, to Pompeii. The innkeeper hands you a crust of bread and a knowing grin. Going to see the sleeping mountain? You pause mid-bite. Sleeping? He nods toward the distant horizon, where a dark shape looms faintly against the pale sky. Vesuvius. Quiet now. Always quiet. Before. You tuck that before into your mind like a warning folded into a letter you won't open yet. The road narrows, winding through vineyards and cypress groves. Farmers wave as you pass, their hands stained purple with grape juice. The air smells of earth and sweetness. And somewhere, a flute plays a tune that feels like sunlight made into sound. Pompeii appears like a dream made of stone. Walls painted in colour. Streets alive with laughter. Even the dust here feels theatrical, catching the light as if it enjoys the attention. You step through an archway marked with graffiti. Enjoy life, for tomorrow is uncertain. Can't help but smile. Romans did love their foreshadowing. The city hums with confidence. Vendors call out, selling figs, olives, jewellery carved from shells. Children chase each other between marble columns. You smell baking bread, hot wax, crushed flowers. Then, faintly, the ground trembles, just once. Barely a sigh. No one reacts. The city moves on, unfazed. You convince yourself it was nothing, though the hairs on your arm disagree. You wander toward the amphitheatre. Inside, the air carries the ghost of 1,000 cheers. You can almost hear it. The roar of the crowd, the clang of steel, the pulse of spectacle. A guide nearby gestures proudly. We Romans, we built this before even the Colosseum, he boasts. Here, the people learn to love blood and bravery. He laughs, and you feel a chill despite the sun. Historians still debate what the gladiators of Pompeii were truly like. Heroes or prisoners, idols or expendables. But the murals on the walls tell one story clearly. Everyone bled for someone else's entertainment. You stand at the edge of the arena, imagining the dust rising, the cheers swallowing fear. You whisper, half to yourself, you probably wouldn't survive that. The breeze answers with silence. As you explore deeper, Pompeii becomes strangely intimate. Houses open like diaries. Frescoes of feasts, lovers, gods, and yes, some very confident graffiti. On one wall, someone carved, "We live, we love, we're not immortal, but we pretend well." You chuckle. If only Instagram had Latin captions. Still, there's a tension under the charm, a hush that grows louder when you pause. People here laugh too brightly, eat too quickly, and glance too often at the mountain looming above them. You stop at a bakery, warm air, scent of rising bread. The baker smiles. "Best loaves in Pompeii," he says proudly. "The secret's in the ash we mix with the flour. Gives it bite." You blink. "The ash," he laughs. "Old superstition. Harmless. Keeps the spirits of the mountain happy." The irony would be funny if it didn't taste so bitter. By midday, the tremors return. Subtle. Rhythmic. The people still ignore them, as though pretending hard enough can hold the world still. You find a villa overlooking the sea. Inside, mosaics shimmer like trapped sunlight. A woman reclines on a couch, dictating a letter to her servant. She looks up as you enter. "You're not from here," she says, voice calm, curious. "Just passing through." She nods. "Then you'll outlive us." You blink. "I'm sorry?" She smiles faintly. The ground dreams too much lately. It stirs in its sleep, and when it wakes... She pauses, looking toward Vesuvius. "It will want company." Her servant shifts nervously, pretending not to hear. You thank her, step back into the sunlight and feel the air thicken. Evening bleeds into gold. The mountain glows faintly, as if the sun itself hides beneath its peak. The people of Pompeii keep laughing, dining, singing. Denial, you realise, has always been humanity's most impressive architecture. That night you stay at a small inn near the city gate. The bed creaks. The sheets smell faintly of citrus and smoke. You drift between wakefulness and dream, hearing distant rumbles that may be thunder or something older. Historians later found that animals fled days before the eruption. Dogs howled, birds vanished, but the people stayed, tied by pride, by faith, by routine. You lie there, staring at the ceiling, thinking how fragile comfort is. The ground could rise beneath your feet tomorrow, and still you'd tell yourself just one more night. Outside, a low vibration hums through the walls. You close your eyes, pretending it's only your heartbeat. Now dim the lamps in your imagination. Listen to the stillness before the storm. The city sleeps, the mountain waits, and somewhere in the dark the air holds its breath. The morning begins with silence, not the gentle kind, not the hush of dawn or the pause before birdsong, but a deep, unnatural silence like the world has forgotten to breathe. You wake in your room above the small inn, the air thick, almost heavy. There's no sound from the streets, no vendors shouting, no wheels clattering. Even the dogs are quiet. Then, faintly, the mountain sighs. A low, distant rumble rolls through the floorboards, so deep you feel it more than hear it. The walls quiver, a cup falls and shatters. You sit up, heart pounding. Outside, a faint plume rises from Vesuvius, slender, silver-grey at first, curling delicately into the sky. It looks almost beautiful. Almost. You lean out the window. The air smells faintly metallic, sharp, like coins after rain. Down below, the first voices break the silence. Confused, questioning. Someone laughs nervously as to the sound, thin, brittle. Then another tremor hits. Stronger. The earth jolts. The laughter stops. You throw on your cloak and rush outside. The streets are chaos now. People running, shouting, calling for loved ones. The ground hums beneath your sandals. From the mountain, the plume thickens, darkens. It twists upward like a column of smoke from a god's forge. Someone grabs your arm, the baker from yesterday. His face is pale with ash. "It's nothing," he says, too loud, as though convincing himself. "It does this sometimes. It'll pass." Behind him, a roof tile cracks loose and shatters. You both look up. The sky is turning grey. And then it begins. A sound like the tearing of the world. A roar, deeper than thunder, endless and alive. The top of Vesuvius vanishes, explodes into a storm of fire and stone. You flinch as the blast hits. The air slams into you, hot and sharp. Dust rains from the sky. The light dims, not slowly but instantly, like someone has snuffed out the sun. People scream. Doors slam. A mother clutches her child and runs. A priest shouts a prayer to Jupiter, voice lost beneath the noise. You stagger, coughing. The air burns your throat. The city trembles as if alive, groaning under invisible weight. And through the falling ash you can see it, a wall of darkness rushing down the mountain, molten red at its core. You run. The streets twist, filled with panicked bodies. You stumble over fallen debris, nearly tripping on the cobblestones. A statue topples beside you, its marble face cracking into dust. Someone cries out, "To the harbour! The sea will save us!" You turn that way, barely able to see. The air is thick, choking. The ski is no longer sky. It's a ceiling of smoke and flame. Lightning flashes inside it, purple and violent. It's terrifying. It's magnificent. And somewhere inside the chaos, you think, the gods must be watching. Historians later wrote that Pliny the Elder tried to sail toward the eruption to study it, that he died on the shore, overcome by the fumes. But for now, all you know is this. Science and survival are poor companions when the sky itself is falling. You reach the harbour. The sea is wild, waves slapping against the stone docks. Dozens crowd the shore, shouting for boats, for safety, for miracles. The air smells of sulphur and salt. You cover your face with your cloak, coughing hard. A man beside you stares upward. "It's the end," he whispers. You follow his gaze and freeze. The column above Vesuvius has grown into something monstrous, miles tall, shaped like a pine tree, a trunk of ash, a crown of fire. Fragments of pumice rain down, clattering like hailstones. One strikes your shoulder, another your hand, light but hot enough to sting. The crowd panics. People shove, cry, pray. You spot a narrow alley, less crowded, leading back inland. Against all logic, you turn toward it. Inside, the air is darker still. You can barely see, but you feel the ground shaking beneath every step. You duck into a doorway for cover. The building is half collapsed, a mosaic of gods still gleaming faintly through the ash. You can hear the muffled screams outside. You can taste the heat. Then, the strangest sound of all, laughter. You turn. It's a man sitting on the floor, dust in his hair, a cup of wine still in his hand. His eyes gleam wildly. "Can't take it with you, can you?" he says, and drinks deeply. You almost laugh too. 'Cause what else can you do when the world ends politely in Latin? Another tremor shakes the room. The man slumps over, either asleep or gone. You don't check, you just run. Outside, the ash is knee-deep now. The air glows orange. The mountain's roar drowns everything. You stumble toward the city gates, each breath a fight. Your vision narrows, smoke, dust, panic. Then, through the haze, you see her. The woman from the villa, the one who spoke of the mountain's dreams. She stands in the road, her white dress turned grey with ash, her eyes calm. "You should have left yesterday," she says softly. You try to speak, but cough instead. She steps closer, places something in your hand. A small clay amulet shaped like a leaf. "For luck," she whispers, "if such things still exist." Then she turns toward the mountain, arms lifted as if to embrace it. You run. You don't look back. Behind you, the mountain screams. The final surge races down, a pyroclastic flow, hot enough to turn stone to glass. You reach the fields, collapse beneath a fig tree, and look once, just once, toward Pompeii. The city vanishes in silence. For a long while there is nothing, just falling ash, just heat and sky. And then, slowly, the world quiets again. Historians say that the eruption of 79 AD buried Pompeii in just a few hours. But the silence that followed lasted almost 2 millennia. You stare at the horizon, the mountain now serene again, and think how quickly eternity forgets. The air cools. The dust settles on your skin like snow. You breathe slowly, carefully. Tonight, when you close your eyes, the fire will still flicker behind your lids. But for now, for just this moment, the world is still. Now, dim the lights, let your breath slow, and listen to the quiet between heartbeats. Because even after the sky turns to fire, there's always a dawn waiting to be born. You wake beneath the fig tree to a grey world. The air is heavy, still. Ash coats everything, the leaves, the road, your hands. When you exhale, your breath looks the same colour as the sky. Pompeii is gone. Only silence remains. You stand, your legs trembling, and look back. The mountain looms peacefully, as if it hadn't screamed hours before. The clouds above it drift lazily, pretending they aren't made of smoke. A strange calm fills you. Not peace. Something else. The numb quiet that follows when you've seen too much, and your mind decides to whisper instead of scream. You start walking. There's nothing else to do. The Via Stabiana, the road that once led into the heart of Pompeii, is buried. You trace a new path south through fields of grey. The soil crunches beneath your feet, soft but warm, still breathing heat from below. A shape moves in the distance, a figure wrapped in a tattered cloak carrying something bundled in their arms. You hesitate, then wave. The figure stops. Slowly they turn. It's a woman, her face streaked with soot, her eyes wide and hollow. She clutches a child against her chest, whispering, "Shh, don't wake him." You realise the child isn't moving. You want to say something, anything, but the words die in your throat. The woman nods faintly, almost as if she's the one comforting you. Then she keeps walking, disappearing into the haze. For a while, you just stand there. Rome, you think, builds roads that lead everywhere. But some journeys don't have destinations. You continue walking until the air clears a little. The world turns from grey to brown, from silence to faint bird song. Life, stubborn as ever, begins again. You reach a small village at the edge of the plain. Farmers, their faces streaked with ash, stare at you as if you've risen from the underworld. One of them, an old man with a limp, approaches. "You came from the mountain?" You nod. He sighs, rubbing the back of his neck. "We saw the fire last night. Thought it was the end of the world." You look at the horizon. "For some, it was." He gestures toward a well. "Drink. Rest. The gods spared you for a reason." You manage a weak smile. "Maybe they missed." He laughs, a short, raspy sound. "If they missed, don't remind them." You sit by the well, drinking deeply. The water tastes faintly of smoke, but it's cool, real. When you glance at your reflection, you barely recognise yourself. Face streaked grey, eyes too wide, a faint burn on your cheek. Yet, somewhere behind all that, there's still you. You think of Lucius, the traveller from the road, of the baker, the woman, the laughter that tried to outlast the end. You wonder if any of them made it out. Historians still debate how many survived the eruption. Some say thousands escaped. Others argue that the ash reached farther than anyone could run. But the truth is quieter, lost somewhere between stone and silence. The old man returns with a loaf of bread, rough, dark, baked hastily. He tears it in half, offers you a piece. You take it, murmuring thanks. He nods toward the distant ruins. "My brother lived there once," he says softly. "I told him that mountain was trouble. He said it was home." You chew slowly. The bread tastes of grief and earth. "Home," you say, "is hard to leave, even when it starts shaking." He nods, "Especially then." That night, the villagers gather around a small fire. They ask you to tell what you saw. You hesitate, then speak. You describe the darkness, the thunder, the rain of ash, the faces that refused to believe, the city that sang until it couldn't. They listen in silence, some cry quietly, others stare at the flames as if seeing them for the first time. When you finish, no one says anything. The fire crackles. Sparks drift upward like tiny spirits trying to find their way home. Finally, a young boy speaks. "Will the mountain sleep again?" You look toward it, the faint red glow still pulsing on the horizon like a slow heartbeat. "Yes," you say softly, "but it dreams badly." The villagers murmur prayers to Vulcan and Neptune, to anyone who might still be listening. You sit apart, feeling the weight of the amulet the woman gave you, the clay leaf warm against your chest. You run your thumb over its surface. The edges are cracked, but it's whole. Somehow, so are you. Tomorrow you'll return to the road. Maybe north, back toward Rome. Maybe east, toward the sea. You haven't decided. But as the fire dies and the stars return, faint, blurred by lingering ash, you feel something shift inside. Not hope, exactly. Something quieter. Endurance. You think of the phrase scratched on the walls of Pompeii. Enjoy life. Tomorrow is uncertain. Now you understand it wasn't arrogance. It was prophecy. You lie down beside the dying fire. The earth is warm beneath you, as if still remembering the fire that nearly destroyed it. Close your eyes. The night hums softly. Somewhere, a distant owl calls. And in that strange hush, you realise the world ends every day for someone and begins again for someone else. Tonight you're the latter. The road back to Rome feels longer than before, not because of distance. The stones are the same, the milestones unchanged, but because every step now carries a kind of quiet weight. The sound of your sandals against the road is steady, rhythmic, almost meditative. The world feels older somehow, as if you've stepped out of time and everything else has remained behind, buried under ash. You pass travellers heading the other way, merchants, soldiers, pilgrims, all unaware that an entire city lies entombed behind you. You want to tell them, to shout, "Don't go that way," but the words stick. You already know they wouldn't believe you. In Rome, truth travels slower than gossip. A breeze rises, warm and dry. Olive trees line the hills again, their silver leaves whispering. A lark sings above the road, a sound so delicate you almost cry just hearing it. Life, stubborn as always, refuses to stop singing. By the third day, the city's outline begins to shimmer on the horizon. Rome, massive, glittering, indifferent. The city doesn't mourn, it absorbs. Empires don't pause for grief. At the gates, guards check every traveller. One squints at you, frowning. "You look like you crawled out of Tartarus," he says. You shrug. "Close enough," he smirks. "You'll fit right in then." Inside, the noise crashes over you. Carts, horses, arguments, laughter. The smell of spices and sewage, wine and sweat. Humanity in full bloom. After the silence of Pompeii, it's overwhelming. You press through the crowd, breathing hard. Then, amid the chaos, something familiar catches your eye. A wall freshly painted with a message in quick, bold Latin letters. Rome is eternal. Someone has added below, in smaller writing, "But we are not." You stop staring at it. People brush past, annoyed. For a moment, you're back there, in Pompeii, staring at graffiti that said the same thing in another voice. Maybe the whole empire is one long conversation between those who think it will last forever and those who know it won't. You drift toward the forum again. Senators argue as always, their words sharper than swords. Vendors sell trinkets stamped with the emperor's face. The marble still shines, though cracks web faintly at its edges. A man in a white toga preaches on a corner, his voice raw. The gods send warnings, the fire from the mountain was no accident. People throw coins, not out of belief, but mockery. A young boy beside you whispers, "That's the third prophet this week." You smile weakly. Busy season for divine messages. He grins, but there's fear behind it. Everyone here pretends not to hear the tremors rumbling beneath Rome's perfection. You find your way to the baths, the great public sanctuaries of the city. Inside, the air steams, scented with oil and murmurs. You sink into the warm water, letting it erase the ache from your bones. Across from you, two men gossip in, low voices. "Did you hear? The gods buried a city near Naples." "Bah! Stories to frighten children." "No, truly. My cousin says the ash rained for hours." The other laughs. "Then tell your cousin to drink less wine." You close your eyes, sinking deeper. The water muffles the world. For a moment you pretend you're floating in silence again, beneath grey skies surrounded by ash. When you open them, the water ripples gently. You're still here, still breathing. Later, you walk through the city at dusk. Rome glows under the setting sun. Statues burn gold. Temples cast long shadows. The air hums with music and conversation. It's beautiful and fragile. You pass a sculptor chiselling a new bust of the emperor. Chips of marble scatter like snow. He doesn't look up as you pause. "Doesn't it ever feel strange," you ask, "carving eternity for a man who's still alive?" He smiles without stopping. Eternity pays well. The chisel keeps tapping. You walk on. Historians still argue whether Rome ever truly understood its own mortality, whether its citizens sensed the decline beneath the triumphs. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't care. Empires, like people, are experts at denial. As night settles, you reach the Tiber. The water glints faintly, carrying the city's reflection, a trembling double of marble and firelight. You toss the clay amulet into the current. It spins once, catches the last light of day, and disappears. A small offering to the river, to memory, to survival. The city's hum softens behind you. You stand on the bridge, letting the cool breeze wash over your face. Somewhere far to the south, the mountain still smoulders. Its smoke may never reach Rome, but its shadow already has. You breathe deeply, exhale slowly. For now, you're alive. And in a city like this, that's miracle enough. Now, dim the lights. Picture the river shimmering beneath the stars. Let the noise of Rome fade to a soft, distant murmur. The sound of a world that never stops dreaming it will last forever. Sleep well, traveller. The Empire isn't done with you yet. The morning begins with trumpets. You wake to the sound of metal against sky, sharp, bright, impossible to ignore. Rome is alive in celebration. Banners hang from balconies, and the air itself seems to glitter with excitement. Somewhere nearby, someone is roasting chickpeas, the scent warm and nutty. Today, the Emperor hosts the games, and you, somehow, have a seat. You follow the river of people flowing through the city, all heading the same way, toward the Colosseum, the grand circle of stone and noise that stands like a god's eye staring at eternity. From afar it seems almost gentle, smooth arches, elegant lines. Up close, it breathes. The crowd pulses like a living creature. Vendors shout, selling honey cakes, sausages, cheap wine. Children weave through legs, clutching wooden swords. Someone smears red paint across your cheek. For luck, they grin. You laugh weakly. Whose luck? They shrug. Whoever deserves it. The Colosseum gates swallow you whole. Inside, the noise hits like a wave. Tens of thousands of voices layered over each other. Cheers, laughter, the metallic thrum of anticipation. It's so loud you can feel it vibrating through your ribs. You find your seat in the middle tiers. The sun beats down mercilessly. The stone beneath you is hot enough to burn. A slave offers water, and you drink greedily, letting it spill down your chin. Below, in the arena, the sand glows golden. Men with brooms sweep it flat, covering dark stains that refuse to fade. The first trumpet sounds again. The crowd hushes. Gates open. A procession enters. Soldiers, priests, performers. The smell of incense drifts upward, mixing with sweat and wine. The Emperor raises his hand, ring flashing. The people roar. Then the cages roll in. The lions are magnificent. Their coats glimmer like sunlit bronze, their eyes too calm. They pace, slow and deliberate, as though they understand exactly what's coming. A voice beside you murmurs, "They haven't been fed in 3 days." You glance over. A man in a green tunic, older, scarred. He notices your look. "Don't worry," he says, "they won't come for you." You try to smile. It doesn't quite work. The games begin. At first it's theatre, parades, mock battles, dances. The crowd laughs, cheers, drinks. Then the mood shifts. Wooden swords become real. The sand darkens again. You watch as men fight for survival beneath the sun, the sound of blades ringing out, followed by the wet, final silence of loss. The crowd erupts each time someone falls. You flinch. The man beside you laughs. First time. You nod. He shrugs. You'll get used to it. "I'm not sure I want to." He grins. "No one wants to, but Rome trains you to cheer, not to think." A trumpet blares again, and this time lower, heavier. The next event is announced. The morning of the condemned. You look down. The gates open once more. Prisoners shuffle out. Thieves, rebels, A few accused of treason, some stand tall, some tremble. One kneels immediately praying. The lions' cages creak open. You don't look away, though you want to. Something inside you insists. If you turn your head, you're part of the crowd that forgets. The sand explodes into motion. It's fast, chaotic, terrifyingly silent beneath the noise. When it's over, the trumpets sound again, cheerful as ever. The sweepers return. Someone beside you shouts, "Glory to Rome!" You whisper instead, "Mercy to memory." The old man gives you a strange look, half respect, half pity. You'll never last long thinking like that. He's probably right. As the sun moves higher, the emperor rises. He gestures to a small group near the front, scholars, poets, senators. They're brought down into the arena for a display of virtue. You hear a murmur ripple through the stands. One of them once spoke against the emperor's taxes. A man with a spear waits for the signal. The emperor raises his thumb sideways. You exhale, feeling something twist inside you. Rome's justice, beautiful and cruel, all in one gesture. Historians still argue about the meaning of that thumb. Up, down, sideways, life or death, approval or mercy. The truth, like the sand, shifts with every retelling. The crowd cheers again. You look around, at faces shining with sweat and excitement, at the sunlight glinting off bronze helmets, at the sand that drinks everything and gives nothing back. Somewhere in the chaos, a street performer tosses a handful of petals into the air. They drift down like soft red snow, land in on the arena floor. For a heartbeat, it looks almost peaceful. Beauty floating above blood. Then a lion roars, and the illusion shatters. By the time the last trumpet fades, the sun is dipping low. The crowd pours out, exhausted and satisfied. Rome hums again, markets reopening, laughter spilling into streets. You stay seated long after everyone leaves. The arena is quiet now. Only the faint buzz of flies remains, and the distant call of a bird circling above. You realise you're shaking. Not from fear, from something colder. This, you think, is what power sounds like when it laughs. You stand slowly and walk out through the tunnel. The stone walls are damp, streaked with age. Faint scratches mark them. Names, prayers, curses. One reads simply, "We watched and we forgot." Outside, twilight softens the city. The cheers are gone. In their place, the steady hum of night. Crickets, footsteps, the whisper of wind over marble. You inhale deeply. The air smells of iron and smoke. Rome sleeps, you think, but it never truly dreams. Rome doesn't rest. It simmers. Even at night you feel it. The pulse beneath the stones, the low thrum of ambition, the restless heat of a city that can't stop wanting more. The day's roar from the Colosseum still hums in your chest like the echo of thunder long after the storm has passed. You wander through narrow streets where shadows stretch long, slipping between flickering torches and the sharp scent of wine, oil, and sweat. Musicians play on corners, their flutes weaving melodies both mournful and mischievous. Somewhere a man shouts, "Bread for sale, still warm." Another voice answers, "Cheaper tomorrow, if you're still alive." You smile faintly. Gallows humour, Rome's favourite language. A light rain begins to fall. It cools the stone, softens the edges of everything. You pull your cloak tighter and follow the crowd toward the Subura, the city's underbelly, where the rich send their appetites to play and the poor send their dreams to die. Here, the streets smell of smoke and secrets. In a narrow alley, you see a familiar face. The old man from the Colosseum, his green tunic darker now with rain. He's speaking in low tones to a group of others, their hoods pulled tight. You pause, watching. He notices you and beckons you closer. Ah, the thinker returns. You shrug. Still trying. Good. Then maybe you'll understand. He gestures toward the group. a mix of labourers, former soldiers, and one woman with a scar across her cheek and eyes like sharpened glass. "We meet here," he says quietly, "because Rome listens too closely elsewhere." You glance around. "Meet for what?" "For truth," the woman says, "or what's left of it." They're rebels. You know it before he confirms it. "Do you think the Emperor bleeds differently than we do?" she asks. You hesitate. "He bleeds gold if rumour's true." She smirks. "Then let's see if rumour lies." The old man leans in. "There's fire under this city, traveller. Not just in Vesuvius. It's in our veins now. People are starving while the games devour gold." He presses something into your hand. A small bronze coin crudely stamped with a laurel wreath. But on the back, instead of the Emperor's face, there's a single word scratched by hand. Libertas. Freedom. You turn it over, feeling the edges bite your palm. "Keep it," he says. "It's not currency. It's a choice." Before you can respond, shouts echo from the far end of the alley. Torches flare. Soldiers. "Go!" the woman hisses. "They're sweeping the quarter again." You run. The rain turning to mud beneath your sandals, shouts closing in behind. You slip through a market, scattering baskets of olives, then dart into a doorway. The soldiers' boots thunder past. You press yourself against the wall, breath ragged. Somewhere nearby, someone screams, and then it's silent again. You look down at the coin in your hand. The word Libertas glints faintly under the torchlight, bleeding through cracks in the door. You should throw it away. You know what happens to those caught with symbols like this: crucifixion, exile, disappearance. But you don't. You tuck it into your cloak and step back into the street once the noise fades. Rome looks different now. Not grand, not eternal. Just tired. The marble seems to sag under its own pride. You notice cracks in the statues, missing tiles on temple roofs. The illusion frays at the edges. A beggar nearby mutters to himself, "The gods watch, but they never interfere." You drop a coin into his bowl, not that coin of course, and he looks up, eyes bright. "They'll remember you for that," he says. You laugh softly. "I hope not." The next morning the sun rises red, the kind of sky that makes sailors pray. Rumours swirl through the markets. Another province has rebelled. A senator's been arrested. Grain shipments from Egypt delayed. The empire trembles, though no one dares say it aloud. You walk toward the forum again, where the same marble faces argue the same empty words. But today you notice soldiers at every corner, their armour newly polished. The woman from the alley appears beside you as if conjured from shadow. "We're planning something," she whispers. "A fire, not to burn, but to wake." You shake your head. Rome doesn't wake, it devours. Then maybe it's time she chokes. Before you can answer, a sudden commotion erupts near the temple steps. Soldiers dragging two men, beaten and bleeding. The crowd jeers. Someone spits. The woman goes rigid beside you. "That's Marcus," she breathes. The old man. The officer raises a scroll. "By decree of the Emperor, for treason against the state." Without ceremony, the blade flashes. The crowd cheers again. You can't move. The woman grips your arm hard enough to hurt. "Now you see why we light fires." Her voice shakes, not with fear, but fury. The officer's eyes scan the crowd. For a second, they meet yours. You look away, heart pounding. That night you stand at the edge of the Tiber again. The city flickers across the water. Torchlight, reflection, the shimmer of something both alive and dying. You take out the coin, run your thumb over Libertas. The bronze feels hot, as if it remembers the forge. You think of Marcus's last words. The lion's roar, the mountain's fire. All the same language, really. Warnings ignored until it's too late. Historians will later debate whether rebellions like this ever truly threatened Rome. Some say they were crushed before they began. Others believe they were the sparks that centuries later would consume the empire from within. Either way, fire always finds its way to the cracks. You toss the coin into the river, watch it sink, swallowed by darkness. Maybe freedom doesn't need to survive to matter. Maybe it just needs to be remembered. As you turn away, the first drops of rain begin to fall again. The city sleeps restlessly. Somewhere, someone whispers a prayer, someone else lights a match. The wind shifts, warm, electric, like the breath before a storm. Rome trembles, and you, standing in its heart, realize the fire never died, it only changed hands. Dawn comes too quietly for a city built on noise. You wake to grey light filtering through a thin curtain of mist, the kind that makes Rome look softer, almost innocent. For a moment you can almost forget the screams, the roar of the Colosseum, the flash of steel. But then a trumpet sounds somewhere near the Palatine Hill, sharp, commanding, and the illusion cracks like thin glass. You're summoned. A messenger had found you late last night. Cloaked, breathless, eyes darting. The prefect requests your presence, he'd said, voice low. Don't be late. The prefect. Which means this summons isn't an invitation, it's an inspection. Now, as you climb the marble steps toward the Imperial District, the air thickens. The city feels quieter here, as if afraid to breathe too loudly. You pass statues of emperors, all serene, all staring. A reminder, power watches, always. The guards at the entrance search you with practiced boredom. One glances at your hands. You're trembling, he says. Too much coffee, you lie. He chuckles. That's one poison Rome hasn't outlawed yet. Inside, the halls are cool and echoing. The scent of incense hides the underlying tang of metal and sweat. The prefect waits in a sunlit chamber. Silver hair, immaculate armour, expression carved from stone. You were seen, he says simply. Your throat tightens. Seen? In the Suburra, with undesirables. You choose your words carefully. I was lost. He steps closer. Everyone in Rome is lost. The difference is whether they admit it. He circles you slowly. You've drawn attention. Some call you a witness of Vesuvius. Others say you speak of mercy at the games. And now, he lifts a parchment. Someone accuses you of sympathizing with traitors. You force a weak smile. Rome breeds rumours faster than rats. He studies you for a long moment, then sets the parchment aside. Rumours can be useful. They tell us who fears what. There's a flicker of something in his eyes. Not cruelty, not yet. Curiosity, perhaps. You've seen things, he says. Fire, death, ruin. Tell me, what did the gods say? You hesitate. That we stop listening before they finish speaking. A corner of his mouth lifts. Not quite a smile. Careful. In this city, silence is safer than wisdom. He waves you away. You're dismissed for now. As you leave, a servant quietly presses a folded strip of parchment into your hand. You don't look at it until you're alone. It reads, If you wish to live, don't return home tonight. Meet at the old aqueduct by moonrise. No signature. You fold it twice and tuck it into your sleeve. Your pulse is a drum beat now. The streets seem different after that. Too bright, too watchful. You can feel eyes following you through every market and alley. Every whisper sounds like your name. By sunset, the city glows red, the same colour as Vesuvius before it broke open. You move quickly through the shadows, past taverns spilling laughter, past temples heavy with smoke. The aqueduct stands on the edge of the city, bones of stone rising against the darkening sky. You wait beneath its arch. The air smells of damp earth and distant rain. Then, footsteps. The woman from the rebellion appears, her cloak soaked from drizzle. You shouldn't have come, she says. Your note said otherwise. I didn't send it. A pause. The world tilts a little. Before you can speak, another figure emerges from behind a pillar. The prefect, unarmed, calm. Good, he says softly. Both of you came. The woman steps forward, hand at her dagger. If you're here to arrest us, prefect, do it quickly. He shakes his head. If I wanted that, there would be 20 soldiers here instead of one old man. He looks up at the aqueduct, rain dripping from its arches. Do you know what this place represents? It's the only thing that keeps Rome alive. Clean water, flowing endlessly, and yet one crack. He trails a finger along the stone. One small fracture, and the whole thing collapses. He turns to you both. The Emperor has become that crack. You exchange a glance with the woman. You're saying you want him gone. I'm saying, the prefect replies, that he's killing the city faster than any enemy ever could. Lightning flashes far off, lighting his face in stark relief. For the first time you see it, the exhaustion, the fear beneath the iron mask. I've served 5 emperors, he says. I know what corruption looks like. But this one believes he's immortal. That's always the beginning of the end. The woman's eyes narrow. And you want help from us? From the people you hunt? I hunt chaos, he says quietly. But sometimes, the only way to save Rome is to let it burn a little. He steps closer to you. You've seen death, traveller. You've seen what happens when people ignore warnings. Don't make the same mistake here. The woman studies him, then finally says, If you betray us, he finishes for her, you'll kill me. Fair. He tosses something to you, a wax seal stamped with the imperial crest. You'll need this to get close. There's a gathering tomorrow night, private, at the palace. The emperor will be there. If Rome is to be reborn, it starts there. Rain intensifies. The aqueduct hums with the sound of water rushing inside. You look at the seal, heavy and cold in your hand. You think of Pompeii, of the arena, of Marcus's execution. Every fire leaves its smoke somewhere. Why me, you ask? The prefect's answer is simple. Because you still remember what it means to be afraid. That makes you dangerous and honest. He disappears into the rain. The woman exhales shakily. Well, she mutters, you wanted an adventure. You almost laugh. I wanted to survive breakfast. She smiles. The first real smile you've seen in days. Too late for that. Above you, lightning flickers again, illuminating the arches like a ribcage holding the sky. Historians still debate whether the final years of that emperor were shaped by fate or conspiracy. Some records speak of hidden plots, others of divine retribution. But one truth runs through all accounts. By then, Rome was already cracking from within. And cracks, once begun, never stop spreading. You slip the seal into your cloak and walk back toward the city, the sound of thunder following you like footsteps. Tomorrow you'll stand close enough to touch power itself, and learn just how mortal gods can be. It prowls through marble corridors and whispers across the Tiber, wearing the scent of oil lamps and spiced wine. The stars above seem dimmer tonight, as if they too are afraid to look directly at what's about to happen. You walk toward the Palatine Hill again, the same path you took to face the prefect, but this time the city feels heavier. Every torch flickers like a warning. At the palace gates, guards in polished armour stop you. You show the wax seal. One glances at it, nods, and waves you through. You step inside. The air changes immediately, perfumed, thick, expensive. Gold leaf catches the lamplight. Frescoes shimmer across the walls, painted with scenes of gods pretending to be human. You wonder if anyone in this palace remembers the difference anymore. A servant approaches, bowing. The emperor welcomes his guests. He leads you through a maze of corridors until the sound of laughter and harp music begins to spill through the air. The banquet hall opens before you, vast, glowing, obscene in its beauty. Silk drapes cascade from the ceiling. 100 candles flicker in bronze bowls. The tables overflow with roasted boar, figs glazed with honey, grapes so ripe they burst between your fingers. And at the centre, lounging on a couch of crimson and ivory, sits the emperor. He's younger than you expected. His face smooth, his expression somewhere between charm and cruelty. His eyes, however, are old. Too old. He raises a goblet. Ah, another traveller of fortune. Come, share our little celebration. You bow, murmuring something respectful. He gestures for you to sit. The prefect is already there, a statue of calm, his eyes giving nothing away. Across the table you catch a glimpse of the woman from the rebellion, disguised as a servant, her hair hidden, her gaze sharp. The Emperor speaks, voice smooth as oil. They say you've seen strange things, cities buried, gods angered, ashes that rain like snow. You nod cautiously. I've seen Rome survive worse than storms, he smiles. Then you've seen proof that Rome cannot die. The crowd laughs, raising their cups. You force a smile. A singer begins a soft melody, a tale of victory and divine favour. The Empress sways to the rhythm, clearly pleased. But behind the music, you can hear something else. Tension. A hum in the air, like the silence before a strike. A servant leans close, refilling your cup. Her hand trembles just slightly. You realise she's part of it. So are the musicians, so are the ones standing too still. The rebellion is everywhere tonight, woven into the performance. The prefect catches your eye, gives the faintest nod. It's happening. The Emperor stands, raising his goblet high. To Rome, eternal and glorious. The guests cheer. Cups clink. And then, as the music swells, you see the woman move. Swift, deliberate, slipping between the servants toward the dais. The prefect's voice is low beside you. Now or never. You rise. Your heart is a hammer in your chest. The hall tilts slightly. Too much wine or too much fear. Then the Emperor turns toward you. You, he says suddenly. The survivor. Tell us, what did you learn from fire? The room freezes, all eyes on you. You manage a smile. That it burns everything that forgets how to listen? He laughs. Philosopher. I like that. The woman hesitates, dagger half drawn. The prefect's jaw tightens, everything seconds away from collapse. But then, a sound. Not a crash, not a shout. Just the faint ping of something metal striking the floor. The Emperor looks down. A small bronze coin lies near his feet, stamped with Libertas. Time stops. He stares at it, then at you. Interesting token. The prefect moves first. Majesty. Silence. The Emperor's gaze sweeps the room. The smile fades. So, freedom dines at my table tonight, he gestures. Guards surge forward. The woman lunges, too late. Steel flashes. Chaos erupts. You grab her arm, pulling her behind a pillar as the room explodes into movement. A table overturns. Wine splashes like blood across marble. The singer's voice breaks into screams. The prefect shouts orders, his voice drowned by the clash of swords. Don't kill them all! Take the Emperor alive! But the Emperor is faster, retreating behind his guard, eyes blazing with fury. You think Rome can be killed in one night? He snarls. Rome is the night. A guard strikes you across the shoulder. Pain sears. You fall to one knee. The woman stabs the attacker, dragging you back up. Together you run through a side corridor as torches fall and shadows twist like living things. You burst into the open air, the courtyard, moonlight cold on marble. Behind you, the palace burns faintly, not with fire, but with chaos. You stumble toward the garden, breath ragged. The woman laughs softly, wild, desperate. We did it. Did what? You gasp. Reminded them they can bleed. She presses something into your hand. Another coin. This one blooded but whole. If they kill us tomorrow, she whispers, at least they'll have to bury the truth with us. You look up at the palace, where flames now lick the lower curtains. The air smells of smoke and wine and history shifting. Historians still argue about that night. Some say the Emperor survived untouched. Others claim he was poisoned later by his own cup. There are no records of your name, or hers, or the prefect's fate. But they do speak of the fire, small, contained, quickly silenced, and of how, afterward, no one ever drank from the imperial cups again. You watch the blaze flicker in the windows reflected in her eyes. Maybe this isn't victory. Maybe it's just proof that even gods can sweat. Somewhere beyond the hills, thunder rolls again. You exhale slowly. The city still stands. The empire still breathes. But tonight it's weaker, more human, and maybe that's enough. Now dim the lights. Imagine the soft crackle of torches dying out, the distant murmur of the Tiber. Let the tension in your shoulders loosen. The danger isn't over, but for now, you've survived the night. Dawn drips over Rome like spilled gold. The fires are out now, mostly. A few tendrils of smoke twist above the palace roofs, curling into the pale morning sky like faint ghosts of laughter. You're alive somehow. That's both miracle and problem. You wake in a small courtyard. Your back against a broken statue of Apollo. The woman is gone. Only the faint impression of her sandals in the dust remains, and the coin, libertas, still rests in your palm. Rome hums beyond the walls, restless and suspicious. The air smells of ash and fig leaves, of something new trying to grow out of something ancient. You pull your cloak tighter and slip into the waking streets. Vendors sweep soot from their stalls, pretending they didn't hear screams in the night. A baker pulls fresh bread from the oven, its scent soft and sweet against the bitterness of smoke. 2 soldiers walk by whispering, "Did you hear? Someone tried to poison the emperor." Nonsense, it was just a fire. Still, he hasn't appeared since. The rumour spreads faster than the truth ever could. You head toward the forum. Statues of gods look down on you. Jupiter, Venus, Mars, their stone eyes calm, detached. They've seen worse, probably. Maybe they're just tired of watching humans repeat the same mistakes. At the base of a column, a priest chants softly, incense swirling in the morning light. You pause, drawn in by the scent. Frankincense, myrrh, and something unfamiliar. He turns, smiling faintly. "You look troubled, traveller." You shrug. "Everyone in Rome looks troubled." He chuckles. "Then everyone in Rome must be close to enlightenment." You're not sure whether that's a joke or a warning. He holds out a small bowl. Inside lies a pinch of glowing powder, crushed petals and ash. "A new mixture," he says. "We burn it for visions. The gods like smoke. It makes their messages easier to send." You hesitate, then take a breath. The smoke curls into your lungs. Sweet, dizzying. For a moment the city melts. You see marble columns bending like reeds, rivers of gold turning black. The Colosseum cracking open like an egg, and inside, not sand but soil, green with tiny shoots. You blink. It's gone. The priest studies you. "You saw something, didn't you?" "Maybe just breakfast disagreeing with me." He laughs softly. "That's the same thing in Rome." He gives you a token. A thin strip of lead carved with strange marks. Keep it. It will remind you that gods and men breathe the same air, and both can choke on it. You walk away, the city still shimmering slightly in your vision. Down in the marketplace, someone shouts your name. Or maybe just a name like yours. You turn and see the prefect, limping, armour scorched, cloak torn. He looks older, heavier. "Still alive," he grunts. "Barely." He glances around. The emperor's gone. Disappeared before dawn. They're calling it divine retreat. And the woman, he shakes his head, vanished too. You have a talent for surviving ghosts. He presses something into your hand. Another coin, but this one isn't libertas. It bears a new face, a new ruler. "They'll crown him by sundown," the prefect says. "History doesn't wait, it just rewrites itself." You turn the coin over. The metal is warm from his hand, or maybe from something else. Change, fire, consequence. "So what happens to us?" you ask. He smirks faintly. "We pretend none of it happened. Rome loves amnesia. makes rebuilding easier. You both laugh quietly, though there's nothing funny about it. Around you, the market roars to life again. Bread sellers shout, children chase dogs through puddles, a musician tunes his lyre, playing a tune that sounds suspiciously like the same one from last night's feast. Life, indifferent as ever, continues. You sit on a low wall, watching sunlight creep across the stones. The priest's incense still lingers in your mind, that strange mix of divinity and smoke. Maybe that's what Rome really is, a city that keeps burning offerings to itself. Some historians later wrote that this was the beginning of the decline, the slow rot behind the marble smile. Others said it was a rebirth, a quiet reckoning disguised as decadence. No one mentions the travellers who slipped through the cracks, carrying coins that once glowed with forbidden meaning. You run your thumb over Libertas again. A gust of wind swirls through the forum, carrying dust and whispers. For a second, you swear you hear her voice, low, teasing. Don't breathe too deep, or you might start to believe. You almost laugh, then you do. Because in the end, that's the real danger of ancient Rome. Not the gladiators, or the poisons, or the politics. It's the way it makes you think you understand power. And just when you start to believe it, it burns the illusion down and builds another. The sun climbs higher, the marble glows, Rome exhales, smoky and golden and alive. So do you. Now, as the sound of morning bells echoes across the hills, let your breath follow that rhythm. Slow, even, like the heartbeat of an empire too proud to sleep. Because tonight, we'll drift further, toward the legions, the wars, and the cold edge of the known world. But for now, just rest here in the smoke of the gods. The road hums beneath your sandals. It's not a sound you hear so much as one you feel, deep in your bones, like the pulse of the earth itself. The Via Appia stretches ahead, ancient and impossibly straight, slicing through the Italian countryside like a scar of ambition. Dawn lingers low behind you, painting the clouds the colour of rust and old wine. The air smells of dust, leather and iron, the perfume of an army on the move. You're marching now, though you don't entirely remember how it happened. One moment you were in the Forum watching Rome rebuild itself from whispers. The next, a legionnaire was pressing a helmet into your hands. "Congratulations," he'd said dryly. "You've been volunteered." You'd laughed, until you realised he wasn't joking. Now you march with hundreds of others, shields clattering in rhythm, boots pounding the road in perfect, punishing unity. Every breath is a shared effort. Every step is obligation. The centurion's voice cuts through the air like a whip. "Keep formation, you're Romans, not lost goats!" You glance sideways. He's a mountain of a man, bald, sunburned, with a scar that looks like a misplaced river. His armour gleams with both pride and sweat. He catches you looking. "You there, traveller? What's your name?" You hesitate. Wrong place, wrong time." He grins. "That'll do. Carry on, wrong place." The soldiers around you snort quietly. You smile despite yourself. By midday, the heat is relentless. Armour traps it, turns it into a personal furnace. The air wavers above the stones, and every breath tastes like metal. The rhythm of the march becomes hypnotic. Left, right, left, right. The world narrowing to footsteps and heartbeat. At intervals, horns sound. The column stops. Men drink from leather flasks, chew on stale bread and salted pork. A few sit in silence, eyes distant. Others laugh too loudly, trading insults that feel like friendship. You overhear a young soldier say, "They say we'll reach the northern border by winter." Another shrugs. "They said that last year too." A third spits into the dust. Maybe the gods just like watching us walk. You think back to the priest's words. Gods and men breathe the same air. Maybe they walk the same roads too, just better shod. After the meal, the centurion walks by, adjusting his sword belt. You there, wrong place, still breathing? Barely, he grins. Then you're learning. Rome's greatest weapon isn't steel, it's stubborn lungs. You march on. By dusk, the land begins to change. The tidy farms thin out, replaced by forests. Wild, whispering, full of eyes you can't see. The road narrows, climbing into hills where the wind smells of pine and cold water. That night, the Legion makes camp. Fires bloom across the hillside, little pockets of warmth in a sea of darkness. You sit with a few others near the edge of the camp, eating boiled grain from a wooden bowl. One of them, an older soldier with a missing ear, leans close. First march? You nod. He chuckles. You'll get used to it. The pain, the smell, the boredom. And then one day you'll realise you don't remember what silence sounds like. It sounds peaceful, you mutter. He smirks. Peace gets you killed faster than war. A gust of wind pushes through the camp, scattering embers into the night. Somewhere beyond the fires, wolves howl. The sound makes every soldier's hand twitch toward a blade. The centurion strolls by again, nodding to each cluster of men. Sleep if you can. We move at dawn. Someone asks, toward what? He doesn't answer. You lie down on your cloak, the earth cold and uneven beneath you. Above, the stars burn hard and clear. The same stars Rome claims as its witnesses. The same stars the barbarians worship beyond the borders. You wonder if they laugh at how small everyone looks from up there. Emperors, slaves, soldiers, travellers, all marching towards something that looks like glory and feels like exhaustion. You're almost asleep when you hear it. A faint hum beneath the ground again. The road. Even here, the Via Appia still sings through the soil. Rome doesn't let go, even in the dark. Some historians later wrote that legionaries could march 30 kilometres a day, every day, for weeks. Others said it wasn't discipline, but desperation that drove them. They weren't wrong. As you drift into uneasy sleep, you realise the same thing that every soldier learns too late. Rome doesn't conquer for survival. It conquers so it doesn't have to think about itself. Your breath slows. The fire crackles low. The hum fades into the rhythm of your heartbeat. You dream of marble roads stretching endlessly. No beginning, no end. Only footsteps echoing in time with your pulse. And in that sound, somewhere between exhaustion and eternity, you hear a whisper that might be laughter. You wouldn't last a day. The next morning, Rome ends. Not in ceremony, not in glory, but in the quiet way a song fades when the singer runs out of breath. You wake to frost. Your breath makes small ghosts in the air. The forest ahead is thick, black-green, and endless. A wall of silence that even Rome's arrogance hasn't pierced completely. Welcome to the frontier, the centurion says dryly. His armour glints dull in the cold. Beyond those trees, everything has a name we can't pronounce. You tighten your cloak, shivering. The smell of pine mixes with the tang of iron and smoke from the morning fires. The Legion moves again, slower now, cautious. The road is gone. Only mud and frozen roots remain. Each step squelches like a warning. The trees crowd closer. Somewhere in the distance something caws. Not quite a crow, not quite human. By midday the mist thickens. The men grow restless. A young recruit near you mutters, "They say the barbarians paint their faces with blood before battle." Another laughs nervously. "Better than this mud." The centurion snaps, "Quiet! The forest listens!" And it does. You can feel it. Every twig snap, every breath swallowed and echoed back by unseen things. Then, through the haze, you see them. Shapes moving between the trees, silent, steady, watching. The column halts, shields rise. The sound of metal sliding against leather is deafening in the stillness. The centurion's voice drops to a whisper. "Hold!" A heartbeat later, a spear thuds into the ground at his feet. Chaos erupts. Arrows hiss from the trees. The forest explodes into movement, men painted in ashen red, screaming in a language older than Latin. The Romans form ranks, shields locking, the familiar rhythm of survival kicking in. You raise your shield too late. Something slams into your arm. Pain blooms bright. The world becomes a blur of motion, clash, grunt, yell, dirt. You stumble backward, tripping over a fallen soldier. The centurion drags you upright with a roar. Wrong place! On your feet! You can't tell where the line is anymore. Only that Rome is losing it. Minutes stretch into forever. Then, as suddenly as it began, the forest goes still again. The attackers melt back into the mist, leaving behind only the groans of the wounded and the silence of the dead. The centurion spits blood. They're testing us, they'll hit again at night. He kneels beside a dying soldier, placing a hand on the man's chest until the movement stops. Then he looks up at you. Remember this, wrong place. They're not fighting for conquest. They're fighting because they still know who they are. You don't answer. There's nothing to say. As night falls, the camp feels smaller than ever. Fires burn low. The forest presses in like a living thing, its shadows breathing with slow intent. You sit near the outer ring of guards, staring into the dark. The older soldier with one ear lights a skiff pipe and passes it to you. You scared? You take a drag, cough and hand it back. Is that a trick question? He grins. Only in Rome? The smoke tastes like pine and resin, sharp enough to sting your eyes. Why do you keep fighting, you ask? He shrugs. Because marching's worse. A pause, then quietly. Because someone has to bring the stories home. You stare at him, but he's already looking past you, into the trees, where faint lights flicker and vanish. Later, when you lie down, the earth feels alive beneath you again. You swear you can hear it humming. Not the proud vibration of Rome's roads this time, but something slower, older. The heartbeat of a world that never asked to be conquered. You dream of the woman from the rebellion, standing at the forest's edge, her hair tangled with leaves. See, she whispers, even the gods stop walking here. You wake before dawn to the sound of horns. Another march, another day. As the mist thins, you see something impossible. A Roman milestone half buried in moss, its inscription fading. The words read, Finis Imperii, the end of the empire. You touch the stone. It's cold, damp, unyielding, and yet it feels alive. The centurion calls, Move out! You look back once, toward the south, where the light of Rome barely touches the horizon, then forward, into the unknown, where smoke and silence promise something truer than victory. Historians will argue whether Rome ever truly ended here, or simply forgot to notice when it stopped belonging to itself. You walk on, the coin in your pocket warm against your skin. Libertas are still shining faintly, as if reminding you that the empire's edge is exactly where freedom begins. Your breath clouds the air. The forest swallows your footsteps. And somewhere between those two worlds, the marble and the moss, you realize you've been walking not away from Rome, but out of its dream. Now let your breath slow. Feel the cold air in your chest, the soft crunch of frost beneath your feet. The danger lingers, but so does the calm that comes after surviving it. We're far from the city now, closer to silence than power, and that maybe is what Rome feared most. The eagle falls quietly. No trumpets, no triumph, just a slow metallic sigh, the sound of a standard slipping from cold hands into the mud. You're there when it happens. Not as a soldier this time, not even as a witness. Just another breath in the wind that carries the end of an empire. It's morning, if morning still means anything. The fog is thick, clinging to your eyelashes, turning the forest into a whispering maze. Around you, the remnants of the legion move like ghosts. 100 men pretending to be 1,000. Their armour dull, their banners torn, their silence heavier than any shield. The centurion's voice cuts through it. Form ranks! but the words no longer have weight. The men obey out of habit, not conviction. You can see it in their eyes, the question no one dares to ask. Why? Rome feels far away now, like a story told around a dying fire. A scout stumbles through the mist, his face pale beneath streaks of grime. "They're coming," he gasps. "From the north, hundreds." The centurion nods, no surprise in his face. "Then we hold," he looks at you. "Wrong place. Stay alive if you can. Someone's got to remember how this ends." You want to say something brave, something fitting, but all that comes out is, "You really need to work on morale." He laughs once, short, bitter, and turns away. The forest trembles. The sound rises, not organised, not rhythmic, but alive. The enemy comes like weather, unstoppable, unshaped. When they break through the fog, it's chaos again. Spears shouting, thunder underfoot. You can't tell where the line begins or ends. The world becomes motion, the kind that erases everything except instinct. You block, stumble, strike, fall, rise again. The cold air tastes like iron and fear. At some point the centurion's voice cuts off mid-shout. You don't see him fall, but you feel the gap he leaves, a silence in the storm. And then, as if Rome herself exhales, the eagle falls. The banner, that proud, gilded symbol, topples in slow motion, catching the grey light before vanishing into mud. The legion breaks, not in panic but in exhaustion. The kind of surrender that comes when you realise no one's listening anymore. You find yourself stumbling away into the trees, breath ragged, heart hollow. The sound of battle fades behind you, replaced by the hush of snow beginning to fall. You look down, flakes catching in the blood and dirt on your hands. White, clean, indifferent. You sink to your knees. For a long time, there's only the sound of wind. Then footsteps. The older soldier, the one with one ear, appears beside you. His helmet's gone, his face streaked with blood and frost. He holds something out. It's the eagle's head, torn from its staff, dented, blackened. Once gold, now ruin. "Take it," he says softly. "It deserves to be carried by someone who still believes in ghosts." You hesitate. "I don't believe in much anymore." "Exactly," he says. "That's why you should carry it." He walks away, vanishing into the white blur. You hold the broken eagle. It's heavier than it looks, or maybe it's just the weight of centuries clinging to it. Somewhere behind you, the last cries of battle fade. Rome as it was is over. Historians will argue for centuries about when the empire truly fell. Some will say it happened in the palaces, when greed outgrew glory. Others will claim it died here, in the mud, among nameless soldiers whose stories sank into the soil. But maybe it didn't fall at all. Maybe it just finally stopped pretending to stand. You start walking south, toward nothing in particular. Each step crunches over frost. Each breath ghosts out into the grey air. The road is gone again. The world reverting to what it was before marble and maps. The broken eagle glints once in your hand, catching a shred of dying light. You whisper to it, half out of madness, half out of reverence. You flew too high. It doesn't answer, of course. It just stares blankly ahead, reflecting the pale sky, like Rome itself, blind to everything except its own reflection. By dusk, you reach a hill. Below it lies what used to be a Roman outpost, burned, silent, overgrown. The wind moves through the ruins with the sound of old prayers, or maybe just memory pretending to be one. You set the eagle's head down on a broken wall. For a moment you stand there, still, alone, breathing. Then quietly, Veil, Roma. Farewell, Rome. The forest sighs in reply. You close your eyes, letting the silence settle around you. It doesn't feel like defeat anymore. It feels lighter. like finally exhaling after holding your breath for centuries. When you open your eyes again, snow covers the eagle. The gold disappears under white. And just like that, Rome belongs to the earth again. Now, take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Feel that same stillness, the quiet after collapse. The part of endings that feels almost like peace. Because sometimes the softest sound in history is the one that marks its greatest fall. Silence. That's what's left. You walk through it carefully like someone afraid to wake a sleeping god. The forest is thin now, and in its place, stone. Scattered, broken, half swallowed by the earth. Rome still stands in fragments. Columns tipped sideways, mosaics buried in moss, walls that lead nowhere. You can feel it beneath your feet. The ghost of geometry. The stubborn heartbeat of a world that refused to stay buried. The snow has melted into fog. The air is damp, heavy with the scent of soil and iron. You step over what might have been a doorway once, now just an arch framing nothing but sky. Somewhere, a bird sings. One clear note, then another. It echoes strangely, bouncing off old marble. You pause. For the first time in what feels like years, you're alone. No soldiers, no smoke, no orders. Just you and the ruins. The broken eagle still hangs at your side, wrapped in cloth. You've stopped thinking of it as a trophy. It's more like a relic now, or a reminder of what not to worship. You wander toward a crumbling amphitheatre. The seats are cracked, the stage overgrown with weeds. A wild fig tree has forced its way through the centre, roots gripping the stone like hands refusing to let go. You sit on a fallen column, tracing the grooves carved into its side. Latin letters eroded by rain. SPQR. You whisper the words, half out of habit, half out of mourning. Senatus Populusque Romanus, the Senate and the people of Rome. Once it meant power. Now it sounds like an apology. A breeze stirs, dust rises, the sunlight shifts through gaps in the walls, turning motes of air into small constellations. And just for a heartbeat, you see it, the city alive again. The roar of the forum, the scent of bread and sweat, marble gleaming white, voices shouting, laughing, bargaining, the hum of 10,000 lives overlapping in rhythm. You blink, and it's gone. Only wind again, and the faint creak of the fig tree. You laugh softly. Still showing off, aren't you? If ghosts could smile, Rome would. You keep walking. Past what's left of a temple. Pillars like ribs, roof open to the sky. Inside, the altar has collapsed. Grass grows through the cracks, green and defiant. You kneel, brushing dirt from a marble tile, uncovering an inscription. To Jupiter, protector of the eternal city. Eternal, you can't help but smile. Eternity, you say quietly, turns out to be about 2 centuries shorter than advertised. A drop of water falls from the broken ceiling, splashing the inscription. The sound is soft, sacred somehow. You realise something then. Maybe what Rome built wasn't meant to last forever. Maybe it just wanted to be remembered forever. And here you are, doing exactly that. Some historians later wrote that travellers centuries after the fall could still find coins, sandals, even bits of scrolls in the dust of these ruins. Small proofs that someone once believed the world could be perfect if only it had enough marble. Others said the ruins were alive, humming at night, whispering old names to anyone who dared to listen. You can believe that, because as you stand there, the wind shifts again, and in the distance, faint but clear, you hear laughter, market laughter, the clatter of a cart, the crack of a whip, the ringing of a blacksmith's hammer. Echoes! You close your eyes and let the sounds wash over you. They don't make you sad anymore, just quiet. Maybe history doesn't die. Maybe it just becomes the background noise we sleep to. You turn to leave, but before you go, You place the eagle's head at the base of the altar. For once, it feels like it belongs. The sun slips lower, touching the ruins with warm gold. You look around one last time. The amphitheatre, the temple, the empty sky. Still here, you whisper, still beautiful. The wind sighs in reply, and for a moment you think it says something back. Words too old to translate, too gentle to fear. You take a slow breath. The scent of moss, stone and time fills your chest. If Rome were still alive, this might have been her heartbeat. And somehow it still is. Now, let your own heartbeat match that rhythm. Steady, slow, grounded. Let your shoulders drop. Feel the quiet, the ancient stillness that waits beneath every noise. You've walked through fire, through power, through ruin. All that's left now is rest. But before you drift off completely, there's one last road, one last return, because even ruins dream of being whole again. Return to silence. The world exhales. That's the first thing you notice, the hush that follows centuries of noise. You're standing on a hill outside the ruins now, watching the horizon melt into gold. The sky above you is a slow burning fire, turning from amber to violet, then to the blue of deep sleep. The wind has lost its bite. It moves softly now, carrying the scent of pine and smoke and memory. You don't walk anymore. You drift. Down the hill, through grass that brushes your fingers, past stones that once were walls. The earth feels warm underfoot, like it remembers everything that's ever touched it. Sandals, hooves, bare feet, ambition. In your hand, there's nothing now. The eagle rests behind you, swallowed by dusk. Your fingers still twitch as though it's there, the phantom weight of history. But it's lighter, somehow, the way a healed scar feels lighter than the wound it came from. As the last light slips over the ruins, something stirs, a sound, low, rhythmic, familiar, waves. You follow it, past the olive trees, down the slope where grass gives way to sand. The air thickens with salt, the sky deepens, and then, there it is, the sea, endless, calm. Breathing in slow sync with the stars beginning to appear above it. You smile. Rome was never built for this kind of peace. But you've earned it. You sit at the edge of the water, let it wash over your toes. The chill startles you, then soothes you. The tide rolls in again, more gently this time, leaving traces of foam that shimmer like faint handwriting. If you could read it, maybe it would say something like, "Everything ends, and that's okay." The moon rises, pale and heavy, reflected in the sea like a coin dropped into eternity. You lean back on your hands, breathing in the rhythm, the waves, your heart, the wind, all steady, all slow. Above, the constellations are ancient ones. Jupiter, Mars, Venus. Gods you've met by other names. They shine coldly, but kindly. You wonder if they still watch Rome, or if they've turned their gaze somewhere new. You laugh softly. You probably wouldn't last a day in ancient Rome, you whisper to yourself, but maybe Rome wouldn't last a night in you. The stars don't disagree. A memory surfaces, voices from section 1, laughter from the tavern, the sound of sandals on stone, the smell of smoke. The people you met, the chaos you endured. It all feels like one long dream now. You can almost hear them again. The centurion's dry humour, the scholar's whisper, the hum of the city at dusk. They fade with the waves one by one until only the present remains. You lie back fully, the sand cool beneath you. The night wraps around you like a blanket. The sky stretches forever. And in that endlessness, you realise history isn't behind you. It's around you. It's every breath, every heartbeat, every quiet thing that survives after the noise. You close your eyes. The last sound you hear is the ocean, not roaring, not crashing, just breathing, slow, deep, eternal, like the world itself is falling asleep beside you. The moonlight softens, the waves grow faint, the air cools against your skin. Each breath you take drifts further into stillness. There's no more war, no more empire, no more marble or maps, just you. And the quiet, the kind that feels like forgiveness. Now, dim the lights, if they're still on. Pull the blanket a little closer. Feel your breath settle into the rhythm of the sea. You've travelled through centuries. You've seen glory rise and dust reclaim it. And here you are, at the edge of everything. Safe, calm, home. Let it all go now. Let the wind take the ruins. Let the waves take the noise. Let sleep take you. Because history can wait until morning. This night belongs to peace.